pero para ver la van tengo que hacerlo de cerca, yo creo, ¿viste?
My name is Luc Stephen, and I am a filmmaker and a film producer.
He always had the ability of bringing people together.
If you ask Luc what drives Luc, he'll tell you money. If you ask me what drives Luc, story.
He's a visionary with a hustler's mentality.
Luc doesn't stop. Luc Stephen is everywhere when it comes to the independent film space. I count him as a pioneer. He's like in a class by himself.
Man, Luc's a hustler. I mean, when you can make it in the street, this game is nothing.
Well, Luc is like a lot of guys, right? The early part of their life, they made money doing things one way. And as they matured and took a few lumps along the way, they decided they wanted to do something different.
You from Haiti?
Yes,
Haitian?
yes.
Mom and dad Haitian?
Yes. Mom was a designer. Dad was in politics. They attempted to assassinate him, and then we fled to the U.S. I didn't have a father figure in my life. My father was not around. I started seeing these hustlers, and I became attracted to the hustle. This is where we used to hustle and bustle.
That part of his life, he don't really glorify it like, you know, it's kind of like fashionable to glorify that in the media. It's big right now, you know, all of the gangster stories, and that was never his thing.
In that lifestyle, all my friends they dead, they're in jail for the rest of their life. Basically, you're losing. Like I didn't have a relationship with my kids, like I lost.
The main option for most people is to monetize the previous life, especially since pop culture has commercialized the previous life. That life being the streets.
When I came home, I met Curtis Schoon, and he got me on American Gangster because they did an episode on Lorenzo Fat Cat Nichols, and then as he became a producer, he brought me in to be a consultant. It planted a seed in me, but then I went and started doing other things like the restaurants, the parties, the comedy shows. And when I came back to it, it just reignited me. A friend of mine, Chaz Williams, brought his friend Doc to me, and we created a web series. So it was just us guys from the neighborhood.
Hold your horses. We have to pray before we eat.
When you first start, you think your shit is the shits.
Man, fuck out of here, man.
As you go on and you get better and better at what you're doing, I know that those things were trash.
My favorite movie for Luc, which I know he's gonna hate it, is gonna always be Pray Before You Eat. And that's because that was his first film. It's not the best film, but that is the film that shaped him to become, for him to become who he is now. I look at that as like, that's just like you went to school. So other people went to a school, paid for their school. I paid for it with on-the-job experience, on-the-job failures, learning as I went along.
When we're finishing everything,
no way to maneuver
listen,
in there.
When you finish with the last round of shots, is this the last one before we get back to the house? See if you can give me a little bit, 20 seconds, 30 seconds.
Independent filmmakers who don't go to school for filmmaking, most times you can't tell in the final product. I honestly commend people who take the time to teach themselves a skill because it takes a lot of discipline.
And then it wasn't until Better Than My Last that I got my real first break on a real production.
We gonna keep chasing this shit money or bag the casino, all right? We with you, bro. Say no more.
My childhood friend Don Quan, he was like big in the credit card fraud. So it's loosely based on his life. I brought Luc on as a producer.
And I just was watching them in action as far as like setting up the shots and how long it took them to set up. It's like, I just was absorbing everything.
He's looking at everything. He's that type of dude that makes sure everything is right and who's who around him and all that. Cause I guess you gotta be like that when you're in the streets. You gotta really look at everybody and be like, who's this?
Just observant, you know, just real quiet guy, just observing.
I was intrigued by his work ethic, you know what I mean? So that's what made me just want to reach out to him, like, you know, jump on this project with me.
If you know Virgos, you know Beyonce, Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant. These are people that do not play around when it comes to their business and their craft. and he's that.
You know some dudes that just got like a straight face and then you can't really read them, the poker face, whatever. We like to use a lot of sports analogies. Like some coaches are players coaches. Some coaches are, stern and yell at you. Luc is like that balance. He could be cool with the actors, cool with the producers, but when it's time to get work, you can see it come out of him.
He was always cool, because I done seen him in some intense moments where things was out of control and everybody getting mad around him, but he keeping calm, right? You know what I'm saying? So by him staying calm, he kept everybody else calm.
Luc has a way of communicating with people that's super important in this business. You got to communicate with people a certain way.
He's not gonna baby you. He's not gonna be like, oh, you okay, you crying, you want some tea? He's gonna be like, what the fuck are you crying for? Like, go do it, go get it.
Stop looking at the camera, girls. Look at the guy.
I feel like anybody that's not experienced in film, they need somebody like him to be like around when everything is going on. Like, he gonna make sure you on your A game.
Everybody needs that one person, especially when you just starting out, that got your back, regardless, and that always is thinking about you, and I know he got my best interest at heart.
Toast, toast. 3, 2, 1, toast. There we go.
I like looking at all of the ones that I've seen because I like the journey from Pray Before You Eat, right? Like the evolution of it. The other day I watched The Pale White Horse.
Where's the money? It's in the bag. Dig your hand in there and pass it to me. Sure? Yes, nigga, hurry up.
Pale White Horse, yeah, that was dope. It was different, you know what I'm saying? Because all his movies was the bomb, but you know what I'm saying? They took a different approach this time.
You see a lot of movies with big budgets, and then you'll see a film that Luc done with smaller budgets, but still quality stuff.
As my filmography has grown, I'm getting bigger budgets, which means I'm being introduced to bigger names and talent. Shooting Cream and working with Dennis Reed kind of elevated my career.
Every Thursday like clockwork. His team gathers up all the money from all his trap houses, brings it to the warehouse on the edge of town. The money all there for the taking.
I think we did maybe 13 million views in the first 90 days.
What?
Yeah, 13 million views. On Tubi, I think it's a great opportunity for independent filmmakers because it gave us a chance to showcase the things that we've done where, because it was an AVOD, where these big joints like Netflix and Hulu wasn't giving us the time of day. And it also helped to put the look on this because that's the first thing that came out. Cream is the baby of Kwame Teague, who was a man that's been in jail for 27 years, and he was ghostwriting for a bunch of urban novelists for years while he's been in prison. And that's another person that's helped me get to another level in this business because people respect his writing. And he chooses me to be his representative on the outside to get the movies done.
I love to tell stories. I love to create. I love to create the worlds and create questions and ideas because I want to see people think. I want to convey who the character is by not just words, but by his presence or her presence. I often use the example, I might be a little old for people, but there's a movie called Grease from back in '78 with John Travolta. Right. So when he first comes on the scene, somebody calls his name and he looks over his shoulder.
Hey, there's Danny! Daddy!
That's the way you frame a star. And so when you have the opportunity to create a story just off the first principle, that really inspires me. That really sparks me because I say, okay, boom, if I can take this visual and turn it into a story, then I got my job done.
I enjoy actually watching how the camera and cinematography works and the storytelling has been evolving since the first projects until now.
I think when I worked with Louis Gossett Jr., that was like the biggest thing of my career because he's an Academy Award winner.
Such courage. Got to be a shot.
In New York, he relates the sound to come from a Caribbean background, authentic hip hop background, an R&B background, soulful background.
That project kind of like opened the eyes of other people to what I was doing and what I was creating.
That's probably our biggest movie.
Whatever you plan on doing, just promise me we won't kill nobody. We won't kill nobody. I promise.
I have to go.
You gonna call me?
As soon as I can. As soon as I can.
What I do want to see is Sin, because it just seems a little different and more focused on females.
I would say Luc is extremely proud of Sin because he talks about Sin all the time. Sin's gonna be dope. Just watch. Sin's gonna be dope.
I think Cream was dope in its own right, but Sin takes the cake.
Sin gives you a different side of Luc. Like, I would have never expected that coming from him when I saw it.
What's the sense of doing something the same way you did it 5 years ago? You gotta have some progress. Like, otherwise, what are you doing?
A lot of people in this filmmaking world, they have a certain personality type about them. And I think that everybody can't be managed or micromanaged. You have to let people do their thing. And I think that Luc does that.
I've seen him, you know, curate all these different relationships.
He knows how to bring the right back-end people into the project to make sure that the project could happen.
He's the go-to guy in New York. Everybody knows Luc.
When we got certain investors, I could think of two off top, like, oh, y'all got Luc down? I'm in. I'm glad we have Luc. I'm glad we have the team that we have, because we striving, like, literally for greatness. We bringing it back to, like, Boys in the Hood, Juice, Menace to Society. Like, we don't feel like it's been one of those in a minute. Luc is gonna make the project that much better.
When it comes to picking projects, if the subject matter is, I feel, dope, then I rock with it.
I was tapped by Irv and Supreme, who is serving time to do a documentary about Supreme's case. Kind of delves into how Kenneth Supreme McGriff got into the trouble that he's in and kind of the misgivings of his trial. And Luc was a producer on there. He just floored me with his humility and, you know, his professionalism and, you know, again, no ego, no, oh man, this is my territory, this is what I do, sit back and watch. It was just like, yo, I'm gonna give you, you know, space to do your thing. This is what I came in with, but I'm gonna let you do your thing, and how can I help? How can I be of service? How can I support and make this the best project ever?
I worked with Luc on a project for a company called LL Bean. The project was to work with a school in Newark and document the school turning their parking lot into a farm.
One of the things that I wanted to do here was bring an urban farm to the area. We're going to teach the kids how to take the farm and make it fruitful for the school, but also something they can sustain for years to come.
It was an extraordinarily successful project if you ask LL Bean. But I also think, just as importantly, it was an extraordinarily important project if you ask the kids who were filmed. You know, he was willing to be honest about who he was and where he came from, and he showed up with a crew that was as well. And so suddenly, you weren't just documenting these kids, this crew was role modeling for these kids. And I don't know if it gets better than that.
You know, he's overcome all that and now is in this place of really making a positive impact, not only in the world of film, but also teaching young people and bringing young people in and being a mentor.
From the street life to the restaurants to the turning it all around to make your life positive so people that behind you can see your growth, your strengths, your weaknesses.
He's taking everything he learned from the past, but he's applying it and he's putting it into like positive things.
See, that hustle that he got in him, that transitioned into filmmaking.
We're shooting July, September, October, November, January, February, feature films.
Luc was working on like 4 or 5 films.
If he's not here working on a gig, he's traveling the country for another gig.
Yo, every time I look on my phone, Luc's working on a project. Luc's working on another project. Luc's working on another project. I go back 5 months, I'm like, yo, when you did this? When this one came out?
You know, a lot of people will be inspired and work on something, but then they go away and they, you know, eat, drink, sleep. This man doesn't eat, drink, sleep, and take a break. He's had his ear to the ground from the second I met him until now.
You can call him at any time. You know, I don't know when he sleeps.
He don't stop. You can call this man at literally 3 o'clock in the morning.
He'll call me at 4 in the morning.
He called me like 5 in the morning.
Luke is probably one of the only people that could call me at like 6:30 a.m.
I'll get off the phone with him at 10:30, 11, and he'll call me again at 4 in the morning. I'm like, yo, bro, when did you sleep?
When do you go to sleep?
The biggest accomplishment, it wasn't even about entertainment, it's about his relationship with his kids. Honestly, that's his biggest accomplishment. Be able to have the relationships that he has with his children now and his grandchildren, I think that's the most important thing ever for him.
You know, Luke, you know, is the king at showing you that, you know, second chances is here. You know, you got to make them yourself.
Aspirations would be for Second Chance Enterprises to be a known production company throughout the world, putting out dope content.
We've always been able to create a trend, but we've never been able to capitalize on it and turn it into an industry. Maybe our last opportunity to take everything that we're doing and not just make movies, but create an industry.
I just want to see him push the envelope. I don't think that Tubi is a place that he's going to remain.
If he told me that he wants to go to Hollywood and he wants to work with Spielberg, he could do that. The only person that could stop Luke is Luke.
I think that every experience that he's had in life has prepared him to get to this point to do films.
A lot of people used to laugh at me, like, oh, now you want to do film? Pick one thing and just do that. And that's just not who I am.
I think Luke is a great example of someone who figured out who he was, who he wasn't, and who he wants to be. He just pursued that fearlessly.